3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rated G podcast. In case you're new to the podcast, Rated G is a Catholic consulting agency here to help ministries in all capacities. Let's help accompany each other. Last episode, I talked about mental health, and I shared how I had some highs and lows with mine. I wanted to take this opportunity in a part 2 to share some of the steps that I took to find a therapist, to find treatment that worked, and how to establish some boundaries in your ministerial life. Very early on, I want to share a disclaimer. I am not a doctor. I am not in a position of medical authorities to recommend treatment, a particular doctor or physician. I am just sharing my experience and the steps that I took. My experiences might be of use. It might present some guidance, but it's not everyone's same path to finding stronger mental health. If you or somebody you know are thinking about suicide, the Lifeline network is available 24/7 across the United States. Their phone number is 1-800-273-8255. Again, the Lifeline network available 24/7 across the United States, 1-800-273-8255. If you are experiencing a medical emergency and need help right away, please dial 911. All right. My first step was just admitting that I needed help, that I needed to find someone to help guide me through whatever it is that I was experiencing. I know it sounds cliche, but acknowledging that you need help is the first step, and it's a tremendous step to a healthier mentality. The second was for me to identify, well, what do I need? And that one was a little tricky because not everyone experiences the same symptoms of anxiety. So I had friends who also struggled with anxiety, and some suffered more headaches, others suffered, more eating problems. So for me, it was more of how can I share with my doctor what I was experiencing. So I made an appointment with my primary doctor, and I just shared what I was experiencing. I had some difficulty sleeping, difficulties eating, I was losing weight, I had panic attacks that felt like heart palpitations. But the biggest one felt my head was always in a fog. That one, the brain fog, that one was kind of tough. I do want to give another warning here. So my primary was very quick to prescribe, and for me, that was not the right approach. I felt like that was too aggressive. My primary doctor was not an expert in psychiatry or anxiety or depression, and his approach was, I just want to prescribe you this medicine to take the edge off. I didn't want to take the edge off. I wanted to identify what was going on so I can take the steps to get healthy again. What I did ask him, though, was, okay, what are my next steps? Who can I see? Do you have any recommendations, or do I need a referral of some sorts? My third step was for me to do my research. So if your insurance requires you to get a referral from your primary, take that step. If not, what I ended up doing was going on a website called Psychology Today, and I also went on my insurance's website to see what doctors were covered under the plan that I had. The insurance I had at the time would allow me to filter my search, so there was an option for search for a Christian psychologist, so that's what I did. My next step was for me to just start calling. I have to be honest here. I called about 15 doctors, and only one called me back. I experienced a lot of not accepting new patients, or I know it says you're covered under the website, but I no longer accept that insurance. It gets frustrating, but I didn't give up. So please don't give up. I know it's frustrating, and it feels like you're cold calling, and I hate when people call like the house and be like, hey, I want to sell something, and then you hang up. Like, it just kind of felt like that, but don't give up. Just keep calling. There's a list. Keep pushing through. So when I finally found a doctor, this would be my fifth step, which would be the counseling and therapy. And that's like a relationship. You may love your therapist, but you might also not like them. I've had some really terrible therapists, but I've also had some really good ones. When you find a good one, stay the course. Tell them everything. If it seems small to you, it may not seem small to them. I was really nervous sharing everything with my doctor about my past. And it's not like I had a dark or scandalous past or anything. I made the decision that things weren't relevant. But she wanted to know everything because she was going to figure out what was relevant in diagnosing my anxiety. She wanted the full story. She wanted to connect the dots. But these sessions took time. They were once a week. And honestly, feel what you feel when you feel it. Let your therapist help you process whatever it is that you were feeling, whatever you are feeling, whatever you may be feeling, whatever you are going to feel. But also have clear expectations of what the therapist is there to do. Your therapist is not there to fix you just by listening. It's a journey, and it's mental health accompaniment. They provide you with ways to process moments in your life that you may have never considered. Some of the conversations I've had were so difficult. They were so hurtful. I cried my eyes out. I just sat on the couch. I remember one session in particular. I probably just cried for 45 minutes and paid the copay and said, hey, see you next week. But I felt so much better because my therapist helped me find a way to close chapters in my life that I left open for years. So here's like step 5.5, because there are plenty of things that you can do in between sessions. If you are somebody that doesn't go to the gym, work out. Get rid of some of that energy that you have, that anxious energy. Read, journal, pray. Try meditation apps like Headspace. Headspace has this anxiety course, which I found really helpful. That one was really good now that I think about it. There's another app called Calm, or there's a Catholic app called Hallow. And that one's pretty good too. It's not as good as Headspace though. I will say that Headspace is more geared for anxiety and depression and things like that. Calm is more of a meditation app. Hallow is good. Don't get me wrong, but just my recommendation there. So these additional steps can supplement your treatment, not replace your treatment, but they can help you find healthier routines to process your anxiety. I would say I waited about 6 months before I asked my therapist if she felt like I needed any type of medication, but she had the expertise and the education to support all of her answers. Her expertise was in anxiety and depression, in panic attacks, So when the time came for it, we talked about it. We talked about all of the possibilities. Another thing I did was I let my family and friends know that I was going to therapy. And I know this one is an intimidating one because, especially in like the Hispanic Latino cultures, I know that there's some stigma there. But it was so freeing to me. So one of the first people that I told was my brother. And when I started going to therapy, he was so patient and so kind, and he was so worried. But it really helped me. It just helped me knowing that he knew what I was going through. I also shared it with my significant other, and she was beyond supportive of that. I will admit that I didn't share it with my parents as quickly as I should have. I was embarrassed, I was scared. But there were moments where I just had to say, hey, listen, I'm going to therapy, and I just need you to support me through that, Lastly, the last step, I decided after speaking to my doctor that if I needed a little more treatment, to go try to find a psychiatrist. My primary wanted to prescribe me something that was totally different than what the psychiatrist wanted to when I found one. He talked to me so much about the science behind the medicine, and he was so patient with me. We explored medication, and when I was ready to, we went ahead and tried some medication to really help my anxiety. Now, not every medication works for everyone the same way. I think I went through 2 or 3 until I found one that actually worked for me. There was a lot of trial and error there, and the whole process, for me to find a doctor, to find a regimen that worked, it feels like a never-ending journey, but I understand that it may take some time, but it's a process that's just worth it. If you value your mental health, this journey is important. I just want to go back to the stigma of taking medication. Once again, not a doctor. This is my opinion. My doctor and a good friend of mine shared this notion, this thought with me. If you have a cold or a cough, when you take some Dayquil or something like that to help you recover faster. So my doctor said that these medicines help you recover to get healthier. The example isn't exactly a like for like he would admit, but his point was more of like, you don't have to be in pain, suffering. You don't have to just sit there in anxiety or in depression. There are things that we can do together that can help you get better. Taking medicine does not mean that you are crazy. That is such a stupid and horrible stigma, and we need to get rid of that one. All right? I have been asked if I've shared my mental health status with my previous employers. Yes, but my advice is that you should do so with caution. Unfortunately, I had a bad experience with sharing. I shared to one of my supervisors and in hopes that they would be understanding when I was stressed or overloaded, and it didn't work out that way. In fact, during a planning session that I was having, I challenged the thought, and I guess it wasn't received the right way. And the supervisor at the time blurted out, "Are you off your meds or something? What's wrong with you?" If someone is sharing that they are struggling with their mental health, comments like that can send them back months or even years. Don't if you are a supervisor or if you have a team or if somebody is vulnerable enough to share that with you, don't do that to people. Don't do that. If you have a good relationship with your colleagues and your boss and you feel like it's important to let them know, you can discern if that's a decision that's appropriate for you. I would just recommend that you discern all of the pros and cons and then go forward. I did it. I discerned. I thought it was a good move. I shouldn't have shared with that supervisor, but I learned a great valuable lesson from that. Some people are just not skilled enough to handle that information with compassion and sensitivity, unfortunately. If you take anything away from this episode, it's that it's a journey. You may find times when it's not working, or it's not the right therapist, or the whole thing is just really frustrating. Keep at it. If I didn't have the people in my life to support and care for me during the earlier days, I don't think that I would have followed through on it. I think I would have still been suffering with anxiety, the way that I was. The experience you get from taking that step can also help you become a better minister. We all know that young people struggle with anxiety, depression, and other difficulties. Your witness can be an inspiration for them, once again, if you choose to share with the appropriate boundaries. Your witness, again, while being appropriate in your sharing, can be transformative. It's another reason why God may have put you in this ministry, to help accompany the young, mind, body, and soul. I went off script last podcast, and I'm going to go off script one more time here. Again, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm just going to... one of the other things I want to talk about is if you're struggling with mental health and you're attached to work and you're working so much or working long hours, put some limits on those things. If you're working 9 to 5, work those 9 to 5. Don't work on the weekends. Don't do things that are going to take space when you're supposed to be dedicating that space to your mental health. Like if you're working and doing work during the weekends, but you're supposed to be working out or you're supposed to be doing something fun with your friends or family that's going to help take your anxiety away or at least give you some peace, but you're filling that with work because you're so anxious, like don't do that to yourself. Have this healthy boundaries that you have to place those in the workplace. And don't let your supervisor take advantage of you. Don't let your supervisor manipulate you that, this needs to get done. Okay, it'll get done. It gets done, but not at the expense of my anxiety, not at the expense of my depression. That's one, I understand that people can take that differently, but stand up for yourself, and your mental health matters. Stand up for that. Let's keep it rated G, people. Let's continue to pray for one another. If you know someone who's struggling with their mental health, say a prayer for them. Be a friend, be compassionate, be understanding. Help them throughout their journey. Help them find a doctor. Help them discern, do I need medication? Do I need a therapist? Be that friend for them. But don't forget to take care of yourself too. May God bless you. Peace.